All right, you guys made it to the last video for review. So this is unit 4. Um, unit 4 is a lot, but I feel like for sure unit 4 is gonna help you write some more details, explanation. Like unit 4 and unit 1 kind of go hand in hand. So you have like the basic outline, structure stuff in Unit 4. So, I mean, Unit 1. And then Unit 4 just fills it out with a lot more detail. So, definitely, definitely review Unit 4 as I'm just going to fly right through this. So, Unit 4 is travel and tourism products and services. So, um, first, at 4.1, it's going to identify. Sorry, just making sure that I'm still recording here. Yeah, identify and describe tourism products. So A is the interrelationships between travel and transit, catering, accommodation, attraction, leisure, and recreational business facilities. Um, the key word is interrelationship. This might come up on your exam. I've seen this a few times in the past papers, so they won't be shy to use it again. They want to know if you guys know um, how important it is for these different areas of travel and tourism to be how should I say it? Be dependent on each other, because I think when I explained about the amalgam, travel and tourism amalgams or amalgamation, how all of the different components of travel and tourism make the full trip, holiday, vacation experience. This is how each of these components depend on each other. Okay. Simply put it, like um, you can't go to a destination and not have an attraction, okay? Because an attraction is basically the main thing that they're going to, have fun, to have leisure, the main part of their leisure, what the purpose of their trip is, the pictures they're going to be taking. Um, Unless it's just a day trip or a domestic trip where they're going to be going back home at the end of the day, they're going to need accommodation. Um, Everyone's going to need to eat unless they're bringing food. And what else? They need to get there unless they're driving their own car or flying their own plane. So travel and tourism exists um, as an industry because all of these components depend on each other. And that's why this industry is a really good one because um, it is the full package that really counts. Sometimes people only need just one or two different parts of the components because they have the rest covered. But the interrelationship, that's where it really is important because businesses depend on each other's existence to make the experience possible most of the time. B, well, by the way, identify 4.1, identify and describe tourism products is pages 132 through 140. B, components included in different tourism products. So this is important too. Also realize that products can be packaged. They can be packaged in various ways. All right. A packaged product usually has at least two components. Um, the most traditional one is transport and accommodation as part of a package. What people decide to go and do at the destination, totally up to them once they get there, but at least how to get there and where to stay when they get there is covered. All right. Other tourist services, which also um, goes into ancillary services too. There's a lot of overlap. Car rental, Recreational activity such as golf, that's also considered a tourist service. Um, and part of the product, entrance tickets to major theme parks and things like that. Right. So this is called also product bundling. Sometimes you'll get vocabulary words that you might not have encountered in your review, but they're actually talking about something you do know. Okay. So if you come across, a word or a phrase that you haven't seen before, take a really good guess about what they might be talking about. And usually you get that guess from the insert and the other questions um, that are being asked before and after. Okay, so usually question one has, like each of the questions have A, B, C, D, and E, and they'll be talking pretty much about the same topic, right? So if you get a vocabulary word that you don't know in one of these A, B, C, D, E questions, you can have a really good guess on what they might be talking about so that you can answer those questions properly. All right. So product bundling, another word for packaging. Okay. So don't be like thrown off so much about something you don't understand. Okay. They're just trying to see if you know like one vocabulary or one keyword in different ways. All right. Um, so packages can come in many different forms. All right. So here are the different ways. The independent product is basically how um, the principal or the provider directly sells to the customer. All right. So that the customer can independently create their own vacation experience by purchasing things, each of the different components on their own. Right. But that's called the independent product. Long time ago, this was what people did, and people still do this now because they want to find the best deals individually, and then they'll feel good about themselves for having saved so much money compared to paying off a middleman such as the retailer or the wholesaler, the travel agent or the tour operator, for having done that work. Okay, so you can read a little bit more about that. Independent package. There was a question about what is an independent tourist or independent traveler. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Like, they never use that phrase or vocabulary in this book, but the word independent is basically referring to this independent product. So an independent traveler is talking about someone who buys their product like this independently. Okay. Um, a lot of the questions can seem kind of unfair, but make a really good educated guess on what they might be talking about. All-inclusive product. We talked about what an all-inclusive resort is. This pretty much talks about a package that includes everything. Right? We're talking about flights. We're talking about transportation at the destination. We're talking about attraction. We're talking about accommodation, and we're talking about food. Like, you don't lift a finger trying to research and find things that you're going to be experiencing once you're there, because an all-inclusive product will have all of that covered. Most of the time, cruises are an example of that because a cruise pretty much takes care of the whole experience. All-inclusive holidays or resorts, maybe you just need to figure out how to get there, but once you get there, you're just pretty much going to be taken care of all the way each and every day. All right, including food. Don't forget that. All right, ancillary services. Kind of mentioned a little bit in chapter 1. Here are some more details. You have these bullet points. Definitely look through these bullet points. You might be asked questions about ancillary services. These are the extra things that are not part of the original package, but here and there, travelers and tourists might find these very necessary for making their vacation experience a full and a good one. Okay. There are guiding services. People who don't know about the destination, don't know where to go, don't know culture, don't know history, maybe have the language barrier, anything. Like a tour guide is part of guiding services. Okay. So someone who's going to pretty much take you and show you the things of the destination, stuff like that. All right, that's ancillary services, guiding currency. Marketing services also Currency services, yes, you need to have the foreign currency to be able to buy stuff. All right, marketing services, difficult to understand because it's less tangible. This one, it's not that much. This is just talking about how businesses, tourism organizations and companies and businesses are marketing with each other. So in the last video, I talked about how a hotel could be promoting and marketing for other business partners about their attraction or about transportation. They're really tight knit because they help each other out. So for example, if a hotel was promoting for an attraction, natural attraction or built attraction, whatever it may be, it's not surprising that you go to one of these attractions and then find a promotion for that hotel that you just came from, right? Same thing for transportation too. It's like, how do we get there? Here, use this bus. This bus takes you directly to what you're interested in. And that bus will also kind of like help the other businesses out too about, you know, what's a good place to stay since you're already on this bus. You know, this hotel is nice, or these other places are nice to see, which our company can take you also if you're interested. So that's marketing services, kind of like a help each other out kind of promotion between businesses. Okay. All right. So let's go to section 2.4, explore the roles of tour operators and travel agents in the chain of distribution. It's a lot to go through. This is on pages 140 to 152. They divide up tour operators and the different types of tour operators. There are international tour operators as a big category. And tour operators can be mass market. Mass market is just talking about these tour operators that try to sell packages that are very popular and that are family friendly, usually the traditional tour package that people would be interested in for that destination. All right, that's mass market. Inbound tour operators, tour operators that are dealing with mostly with foreigners coming into the destination. And these are nice because they work at the destination. If you had any issues or if you wanted to change or customize some parts of your package, you can do that directly because you're in the same time zone. All right, and you can do customer service and during the same time. It's kind of challenging when you're an outbound tour operator, which is the opposite, pretty much trying to send people out to different countries or different destinations to have your package. But what happens if you end up having an issue that needs some customer service? You might not get that customer service promptly because it's in a completely different time zone. But there are benefits to outbound tour operators because most likely you'll be able to do all the booking and reservations in very clear communication because you're doing that from home and you're communicating with someone who's setting up all of these things for you. Okay. And a lot of outbound tour operators, I'm sure, have some sort of associate or connection in the destination to be able to handle any issues that go on, right? But of course, they're not the once you get there, they're not the ones that actually did the booking with you. So there might not be like 100% smooth customer service, but at least someone to take care of your issues once you're out there. Domestic tour operators, obviously, they're promoting to the people who already live close to or in the country of the destination. All right, specialist tour operators. This one's also important to know because specialists, they really take care of packages that are very niche. Niche meaning they are customized to a particular activity or maybe just customized to one specific destination, a theme, a certain type of transport. Sometimes there are coach packages because, for example, in Europe, Europe is very well connected by bus. So a coach package could use one bus to take you around all different parts of Europe, which is nice. So your transportation is covered and your itinerary will be based on the schedule that the coach provides you. Could be by age, because older people like certain things, younger people like certain things. So these are specialist tour operators. They focus on a specific target market or a specific customer category. They're interested in the same things. so that you kind of like, reduce like some of the things that some packages might, some people that might find some parts of the package kind of like unnecessary. Okay. But usually tour specialist tour operators, since they're more specific, customers are going to be getting exactly what they want. And maybe, since it's more focused, it might be more expensive because it's just like, it's specialized. So you should be paying more for something that you will enjoy more other than a traditional tour package. All right, operating characteristics. You could go over this box. The slides kind of help you better to understand this. Horizontal integration and vertical integration. I don't think I've ever seen a past paper, unless it's like really long time ago, that actually covered this. So if you don't have time, don't review that part. But this is just talking about how tour operators um, try to work together with each other, with amongst tour operators or amongst different levels of the travel and tourism, so that they can kind of work, run their businesses better. Okay, so you can review that. Let's see. You can go over this box: mainstream tour operators versus independent tour operators. This is more like multiples and miniples, if you remember that. All right, nature of tour operators, the way that they work, the way that they actually do their business, um, the way that they actually make contracts, like how they decide on purchasing different components for their package. Okay, I don't think you need to know this. I thought it was really interesting because it kind of lets you know how businesses make their profit according to how they make their purchases from their suppliers. I mean, okay, because obviously tour operators are not the ones supplying anything other than packages. They need to get their stuff from the suppliers to put stuff together for customers. So this kind of just talks about how purchases are made. Um, Tour operators and price. Yeah, price, holiday pricing, talking about seasonality. Definitely know what seasonality is. It's how businesses operate according to peak and off-peak seasons. Peak season meaning like when most of the tourists are coming to that destination to experience their packages, right? There's a season where it's popular, where things are high in demand. Okay. And usually the prices are pretty much set because since the demand is high, the price is going to be high. But during the off-peak season, when people aren't coming as much, the prices will be low. Naturally, because it's low, because they want to attract customers when there usually isn't any customers. So discounts and promotions really help attract customers for anything, for any kind of product. So tour operators do that, and that's the term that they use, seasonality, for that. Flight times, yeah, holiday pricing is associated with flight times because flight times, yeah, people have their preferences. Usually, flights during the day are more expensive than flights that are run during the night. People who sacrifice their comfort of sleep during the nighttime get to save a lot of money because usually people don't fly that often during the nighttime. Single room and other accommodation supplements. So tour operators, they kind of take all of these things into account when they're putting packages together because people who want to go on a budget, they'll definitely be sacrificing a lot of things. People who aren't on a budget and like to pay quality for quality, then they're going to, um, get the usual things according to these different numbers. Okay. So tour operators and exchange rates. Yeah, you can review that. I don't have anything highlighted or underlined, so I don't think I'm going to go over that. Travel agents. Let's see here. B, retail travel agents. The role of travel agents. What do they do? They're pretty much like tour operators, but they're the ones who are actually selling packages. Tour operators create the packages. They can sell it too. But the travel agents are the ones on the real front line, using the CRS and GDS to make sure that they can find the best prices for the customer, and also offer the best packages for the customer's needs and wants. Products and services offered. These are all the range of things that travel agents can be selling. So there are the bullet point. There are the bullet points. Understanding travel agency appointments. I don't think that's important. Operating characteristics of travel agents. They're just trying to make money. So I don't have anything underlined. Oh, here. There's a competition of growth in direct sales by some tour operators, which means that travel agents need to be more flexible in their approach. Okay. Competition between tour operators and travel agents. So it's just saying that travel agents might get a little crafty and try to customize packages for customers or tourists. Yeah, these days they're offering tailor-made packages. Again, they're talking about multiples and miniples. You know, a lot of this stuff, this is why I find this book interesting, because it's a lot of the same information being given to you in a different way in different areas of the book. That's why it's just better for you to understand it. Not much. If you try to memorize all of these things, it gets a bit hectic. Travel agents and consumer protection. Consumer protection is important. Do they even say that in the syllabus? No, they don't. But at the same time, I don't remember where consumer protection was asked in the exam. Maybe it'll be in your exam. Consumer protection is basically, it's like an insurance. Not really for the customer, but it's like an association that kind of a credibility to businesses, so that and usually for businesses to be part of these kind of associations. Here, example, the IATA, the International Air Transport Association. A lot of airlines and travel agents are part of this association. You can't just join it. You have to fulfill a lot of requirements to join this association, because those requirements are the things that make your business authentic and reliable. And for you to be part of this association, you can pretty much flaunt or brag that you are part of this association to customers, for customers that don't want to be scammed. Okay. There are a lot of businesses out there trying to get people's money, promising something, a good service or a good product, and then it doesn't turn out to be that great. And then later you realize they were like a rogue travel agent or rogue airline, that are just new in the market, and they weren't part of an association because, first of all, they're new and they didn't really fulfill the requirements. Because sometimes fulfilling requirements for these associations cost money, because you actually have to have a lot of policies and procedures in place, a lot of equipment, updated equipment, reliable equipment, things like that. And businesses, they want to make a profit. They want to invest less and make a lot, right? So consumer protection is highlighted in this way because associations like this, the IATA or the ASTA, you don't need to know these associations, but it's really good to know that once they are part of an association, credible association, then the customers should feel safe about what they're purchasing. And not only what they're purchasing, but that their experience will be good. Because sometimes it's so good. Sometimes the consumer protection is so good to the point that if let's say a travel agent goes bankrupt in the middle of your vacation, which is possible, like decades ago, this kind of left customers stranded in the destination because there's no more customer service, and the purchases were all made by the travel agent. The itinerary was made by the travel agent, but the travel agent, since the travel agency went bankrupt, everything for the rest of their trip was just declined, and they were just stranded on the trip. Consumer protection, if that agency had to happen to be part of an association, that association would be able to actually help those customers to not only get back home, but complete their trip. All right, so consumer protection is important. All right, I spent too much time on that. 4.3 describes support facilities for travel and tourism. Infrastructure, huge. Definitely no. Go over infrastructure. You will be talking about infrastructure, if not asked about it, using it as your examples, as part of your details or explanations in your answers, right? I don't want to talk so much about it, but here, infrastructure just doesn't mean roads and bridges. It includes basic facilities such as utilities, water, electricity, sewage, telecommunications, education, health facilities, right? We usually talk about roads and bridges and transportation because those are the main things that drive travel and tourism, literally and metaphorically. Okay, because if you don't have roads and bridges and you know airports and ports and ferries and boats and cars and public transportation, it is not possible to be traveling within or to a destination. All right. But infrastructure also counts for basic city infrastructure. So whenever you're talking about sustainability and how it benefits the local community, infrastructure improves for them too in terms of health facilities and education and telecommunication, right? So that's also infrastructure. Just know that infrastructure is a very big keyword that you really need to be able to understand and use as your examples when you detail out your explanations. Okay. Don't forget METCs and LETCs. I think this was talked about a long time ago in Unit 1, not even in that much detail. METCs are more economically developed countries. LETCs are less economically developed countries. All right. Infrastructure will be very good in METCs because they are developed countries. All right. And also LETCs, infrastructure is not that good. It's getting better probably, but it can only get better when government gets tax revenue, right? How does government get tax revenue? They get more tourists. And then once tourists come, then you have the multiplier effect and everything just happens perfectly. Exponentially if they're doing it right. Okay. So infrastructure, please go over that. Let's see, type and range of accommodations available. We went through a list in chapter 1. Know the difference between service and self-catering. Know the differences between these basic accommodations like hotel, guest house, hostel, campsite, and some of the other bullet points that were in chapter 1 or unit 1. Economies of operation and scale of investment. I think this is just talking about, right, I'm just going to summarize this for you. When a destination starts to become popular, like on the product life cycle, let's say it's on the 3rd or 4th stage, and they're starting to get a good number of tourists, but not enough yet where infrastructure is so great that businesses, for example, accommodations, are not too confident in setting up shop. Okay. If we just use Vientiane as an example, we see a lot of cafes. We see too many cafes, right? People like to go and eat in new places, take pictures and stuff. Do you see a lot of accommodations coming up? I would agree that a lot of accommodations are coming up in terms of chains. I don't see a lot of guest houses coming up or hostels, but that means that when chains are coming up, like Crown Plaza, Holiday Inn, what's this DoubleTree that's come through? That would be part of Hilton. Landmark is just still Landmark. When we see a lot of these chain accommodations come in, that means that these international chains are confident in the infrastructure of the destination. Okay, so since Vientiane is pretty much the spot where people go to, not specifically for the attractions of Vientiane, but be able to stop here and then maybe enjoy for a few days before moving on to Luang Prabang or Pak Se or Xian Quang or these other places in Laos. It shows that development, tourism development is happening and accommodations are confident. International chain accommodations are confident in setting up shop. The economies of operation and scale is just more talking about is there a range of accommodations and the different budgets of accommodations there at the destination. People who are on a budget versus who want a luxury experiences, is that range there? And depending on the range, you can kind of sense how well a destination is doing. Okay. If it's very limited, because people don't like limitations when it comes to deciding where to stay, where to go, what to eat. and what to enjoy, the more options there are, the more developed that destination is. If you get that concept, then you can kind of understand the economies of operation and scale of investment. Okay? And all of that heavily depends on infrastructure. All right. Okay, that was my summary. You guys can go over it if you want. Occupancy rate, does it show? Classifications of grading a hotel. Obviously, 5 stars. 5-star hotels have the best customer service. I don't know anything that's considered 1-star, or they would even be proud to say that they are 1-star. Guest houses, hostels, backpackers, right? So facilities provided for business and leisure tourists. Don't forget about business tourists. Okay, business tourists. If you want to know about, if you want to brush up on business tourists, go back to Unit 2, right? And then there was like a couple on Dubai, right? Talking about business tourism, and there's like a section before that case study that kind of talked about the different things that business tourism is all about. So if you get a business tourism question, just remember right now, right here, I told you to go back to Unit 2 and then brush up on wherever you saw business tourism. Okay. Business tourism really depends on facilities and accommodation. Because most of the time they're there for what? The mice, the meetings, incentives. Well, you don't have to think about incentives so much. Conferences and exhibitions. All right. If those facilities aren't there, you're not going to have business tourists. Right. And a lot of reasons that those facilities are there because there's a lot of business already going on in that city or in that destination. Usually we're talking about a mega city. Okay. And when there are facilities like that, then business tourism will happen. Okay. There has to be a range of options because business tourism will happen when there's like large chain accommodations that have huge conference rooms and multiple meeting rooms in just one hotel, right? Let's see. Local public transportation and provision and relationship with improved accessibility. Accessibility has everything to do with infrastructure also. How easy is it to get to the destination and how easy is it or difficult to move around in the destination, all right? So transportation really has a lot to do with that. Some destinations have rapid transit systems, which are those like subways, bullet trains, buses, those things, maybe even ferries if we're talking about, you know, a destination with, you know, a lot of crossing over the water. Okay, those things need to be in place so that people can get around easily. And that's what accessibility is. All right, I think this last section, I'm just gonna have you guys just skim through. This is talking about air transport, sea transport, and rail and road transport. Go over these bullet points because I'm already beyond 30 minutes on this video. Just definitely go over the bullet points in the syllabus, go over the bolded words or text in the pages. Best as you can, know what scheduled services, remember what chartered services are. Okay, that's all there. Remember what a hub is, right? A hub is usually, you know, an airport where people are stopping over before they go into their final destination. All right, gateway, when they use the word gateway, it means the main way that people get into that destination. Usually it's an airport. So for us, the gateway would be Watai. Watai, I said it, so, okay. Let's see. Operation of economics of air transport. I really don't think you really need to know this, especially when you're trying to review quickly. Regulation and deregulation of airport. This one too, I've underlined some things, but you could go over it. I'm not going to. Air alliances, I think it's important, but I've never seen a question on it. But air alliances, airlines don't like working by themselves. That's just too much promotion that they'll have to do on their own. They work in alliances. A lot of airlines are grouped together according to different alliance. So Star Alliance has Air Canada, Air China, Australian Airlines, South African Airways, Singapore Airlines. They're grouped together because they can share the same database and they can promote each other. And also, if you're looking for like, you know, how to get from one destination, from one place to a far destination, they like to group it together with the similar alliances of airlines because then you get the best price instead of going from one airline to another airline that's not even the same alliance. When they work together in the same alliance, you definitely get some good deals, good prices. You definitely get baggage that's transferred over easily, or luggage that's transferred over easily without having to claim your baggage and then check in again, which happens if you're working with different airlines that are not part of the same alliance. Okay, since they use the same database too, it kind of runs more smoothly when it comes to bookings also. Again, the AITA is back. But this one, they're talking about how the AIT also influences safety and security of airline passengers. Okay. So yeah, that was just airlines. If you air transport, if you go over these things, please just kind of like skim through. You could go to the slides, go through this PDF because it kind of brackets, underlines, and highlights the things that I thought were important. Okay. Yeah. It's a lot to kind of go over and review, but still, go through it. At least to have a basic knowledge of the syllabus will give you things to write about, even though you might not know the exact details. All right, but you know everything should just come together if you just kind of have an open mind and try to answer everything according to the question. All right, read the question carefully. All right, find out what the keywords are. Make sure you are answering the question from the right perspective, customer's perspective, business perspective, or um, um, what's the third perspective? The destination perspective, right? Specific perspectives can be different. You just have to understand the question, and you'll kind of know how to write the answer. Okay. So, with the rest of the time that you have, I hope you guys go over some of the past papers, right? Um, just go through the syllabus quickly if you haven't done so already, so that you can at least know some of the terminology here and some of the basic things that they're pointing out to the book. Go over the past papers. All right. At this point, if there's not enough time, just go through the mark scheme, read the insert, look at the mark scheme. The mark scheme has the questions. All right. Letter E questions, they don't give you so much. Sometimes letter D and letter E questions, they don't give you uh, like the identification and the explanation so much. They'll give you the topics that you should be writing about. Okay. So whenever you're writing letter E questions, please make sure that you have at least 3 or 4 different things that you're going to be talking about. You identify and explain, but when you explain it, make sure you explain it very well in 2 sentences. All right. They want to see how deeply you can explain your identifications and also be able to maybe even relate it to different perspectives. All right. Try to connect things with each other also. Try to make sure that you're staying on the topic. Right. Sometimes you might be writing about something else completely different, even when you're explaining stuff. So yeah. Okay, so that is a flyby of Unit 4. Hopefully that was helpful, and good luck on your exam. Make sure you ask me any questions if you come across any. At this point, it's kind of late, but if it's not, then just hit me up. All right.